I guess I was in mute. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Nishant Bhardwaj, your trusted customer success advisor, would like to welcome you all for an insightful webinar on the integrated workflow in the AEC collection. Discover how architects, engineers, and construction professionals can seamlessly collaborate, enhance productivity, and achieve superior project outcomes using Autodesk's comprehensive suites of tools. So let's discuss how can we elevate your project with cutting edge solution and industry best practices. So let's begin with a little introduction of our organization. Earlier, we known as Capricorn Technologies, which was the part of Win Zero Group, and now we have a transformed into a bigger group as Arcans India. And we are more into integrated solutions, working with 50 plus offices around the world with 1300 plus solution professionals to facilitate services and support functionality across architecture, engineering, construction operations. Now, we have a global footprint with the belief of helping our customers to unleash their true potentials in leveraging technology. We are available in America, Europe, and Asia Pacific to assist you with the best of our services. So today's agenda is first, we are going to look at design appraisal part for initial project development, and afterwards we will discuss upon seamless integration between various Autodesk solutions. And after that, we will be having Q&A session. So anyone who have queries can put their questions into the chat box. We will take it at the end of our webinars. Now, I would like to hand over to Mr. Anurag Pamnani. He is an architect working with Arcans India since 2023. He is associated with architecture field since the last 3 years and believes in technology which can transform the way we design, enhancing the creativity. Anurag, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Nishant. And so very first thing we would like to begin with is what is within the AEC domain that we have under the Autodesk collection. So AEC is basically an architectural engineering and construction collections, and where we have multiple solutions together which have an integrated format in them within. And so, for example, here we have Autodesk Format Pro, which is particularly used for forms development of sites, which can be easily integrated with a base platform, which is known as Autodesk Revit. So at the top, you can see we have a base platform, which is Autodesk Revit, which is particularly used for the modeling purposes, developing the building information modeling system within. And we also have a documentation process within Autodesk Revit. So this acts as a base platform. Similarly, at the bottom, we have Autodesk Docs. So for the docs, it is all storing the centralized files within a common system for maintaining a true data source, I would say. So rather than having our own files onto systems, increasing its RAM and capabilities, it's much better to use cloud-based network where we can store our file, where we can collaborate onto a internal cloud system and can seamlessly work upon the integrated solution part. Similarly, under the bunch for the architects, we have Autodesk Recap Pro, which is particularly used for the point cloud data. And for the more automation part of it, or making our work or errors, reduce errors and efforts, we can go for the Dynamo scriptings, which works on an visual programming tool based activities. So over here, we can reduce our times and efforts with the less number of repetitive tasks. Similarly, with the help of Autodesk 3ds Max and Twinmotion, we can go for the visualization purpose. So Autodesk Revit is also directly interconnected with Twinmotion. We can take that model directly and can visualize our own entire project from the conceptual design phase to the end of its productivity, for its outcome basically. And a common platform which everyone still is working upon, which is most used part, is 2D drafting, where a person is not going for the building information modeling, but he just needs some drafting tools for it. So AutoCAD is the best solution we have in our package. Finally, with Autodesk Navisworks Manage, we can have the clash detection parts where we can see what are the different clashes within our models within a different disciplines, and we can link those models directly onto Revit interface, and we can resolve those issues at the same time. Coming back to other part of it, like if these are particularly the solutions that are used for the architects in bunch, but whenever we come to an infrastructure portions, we have InfraWorks and Civil 3D with us. So InfraWorks is used basically for the conceptual design or the land development part to capture down the land. If someone is not having the entire uh, way to start with a conceptual design, he can go with the InfraWorks model capture, land capture, can bring that particular land capture model to Revit and can move on to the detailed designing process within Revit. So this is how InfraWorks offers an integration, but it has several levels of integrations within. Similarly, with Civil 3D, if someone is moving on to road development part or road development designs, bridges design, so he can opt for the Civil 3D at the same time. So in short, an AEC is basically a collection of softwares or tools which offers entities or integration within a common base platform, which is Autodesk Revit at a part. So coming back to the part of workflow process, would initiate this with how we are going to see with a live demo that how InfraWorks is interconnected with Autodesk for making our works less repetitive in nature and minimizing our errors at the same time. Similarly, we will be looking at the other solution, which is known as Forma. So InfraWorks, coming back to the InfraWorks part, it is basically a tool for land capturing. When we are going to start an entire design process from the conceptual design phase, we can pick the InfraWorks as a tool to bring those site capturing part with their amenities onto our Revit model so that we can give certain inputs, desired input, which is required onto the drawing onto our Revit end. So it's used for the site development part. Similarly, if I comes for the Forma, so Forma captures a certain area within the entire model which you need, and then you can take those models and can develop a basic generic forms out of it with certain area matrices. For FARs, you can have the build ground coverage to it, and as soon as you have modeled all those entities directly onto Forma, you can bring it onto Autodesk Revit again for the detailed designing. So eventually whatsoever we have elemented or modeled onto Forma, it will take those element onto Revit as a category wise solution and will come under a separate categories. For example, walls are there, roofs are there. So it will propagate those particular elements according to the Revit categories. Then we can have those particular areas have been fixed onto Forma, and now we can go for the internal planning within the Autodesk Revit with various disciplines involved with the building forms that we are looking for. So coming back to the part of capabilities, so as I said, InfraWorks is a better tool because in capturing the land development part, it gives us a lot of information about the surrounding amenities. So once giving the for the desired output, we have to have a desired input to it. So InfraWorks gives us that particular conceptual level design phase inputs at the same time to work with. Similarly, once we brought that particular format to our Revit, then we can convert them onto topo solids. We can make cut and fill out of it, which can further enhance in our design processes, right? So now I would be moving on to show with a live demo how these two tools like InfraWorks is interconnected with Autodesk Revit. So here we begin with a live demo now. So you can see here we are onto InfraWorks domain. And for this to have a site to be captured, we have to move on to a particular option, which is model builder at a time. So once we move on to model builder, now it will give us a GIS location map where we can trace our own site accordingly, which the amenities which we require. So it covers an around area of 200 square kilometer of an area to capture at a time, as well as you cannot have a multiple composite links to it. And if you are moving with Google Earth Pro, you can use the option of import a polygon. Now I'm going for the general polygon option and I will capture a particular site. I will name that model. I will select a particular coordinate system within that particular location. So once this is being done, our entire file will appear onto the workspace we have. So now you can see we have a test03 file, which we have named, and we can open this file directly. So I'm opening it onto the local desktop network. So now you can see we have our site captured with number of amenities within. Right, so now we have to see what integrate details does it gives, like contours, other amenities around, and then we have to export it in a particular format. Like I would go for .fbx format to take this model onto Format Pro for the CAD development file format. So I am onto my format interface and I'm just importing down the files which I have saved. So now this is a particularly CAD sort of file format, and I can link this CAD format directly onto Revit for TopoSolids generation. So I have linked the CAD file. I will choose the particular file. I will open it. So now you can see we have a CAD model, and we can generally convert this model onto TopoSolids using the import category option. So once this is being generated, now we can go with the detailed design options, where to cut, where to fill, and we can develop our building paths accordingly. So this is how our tools are being integrated. Now I would like to showcase you the second part of it. Like we will be moving on from Forma model to the Revit part of it. So we have a beta plugin add-in, which has been directly installed onto Revit, and then we can integrate both of these solutions together. So now you can see on the right-hand side, we have properties, and we can develop those property-based matrices of the blocks. So it basically supports the initial rectangular and formats. Okay, and then we can analyze it at a conceptual level. What is the amount of daylight we are receiving? And what else, some other sort of analysis, wind, noise, other forms of analysis can be done integratedly. So it's in multiple time format through which we can take the Forma file to Revit and back from Revit to Forma again. So we can do these options as multiple. We are catering down the changes onto our models. Once done, so these add-ins can be stored from the App Store, can be downloaded from the App Store, and you can install it directly. You can duplicate the entire model to work with number of options within, and you can send it directly onto Revit. So once it's been sent to the Revit part, I will just open that directly onto Revit model and will load the entire model. So you can see both of the interfaces have been linked. So now it has been linked with the category wise solution. So whatsoever we have elemented onto Forma, that has been converted into a particular category over here. And we can link it with a particular location to get a correct analysis within both of the interfaces to work with. And once done, we can update the entire process back from Revit to Forma. So this is how these tools are actually very directly linked. So we don't have to make the entire changes back again and again onto certain platform. We just need to modify it at one end and we can get the same output result at the other end as well. Over to you, Nishant.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Let's have a small quiz. You can opt for an option which you feel is correct. So, Anurag, can you just show down the poll? Which of solutions has direct integration with Revit and vice versa interoperability? Option A, InfraWorks, B, Forma, C, Civil 3D, D, Twinmotion. So, in front of you, you will have your polls. Please select the answer, whatever is right according to you. Number of people know the answers, Anurag. Okay.
So most of you have opted for the very right answer, that is Forma. So yes, the Forma is the right option where we can integrate it directly from Revit to Forma or Forma to Revit, back and to and back flow process. So that's absolutely correct. Coming back to the other parts like InfraWorks, we know that we don't have a very direct connectivity. We have to export that onto a particular format or have to take that particular model onto a different sort of format. And then we can have those things integrated within Revit. Similarly, Civil 3D don't has indirect integration, whereas Twinmotion has indirect integration, but it's not a two-way process. So you can have the Revit model or a detailed conceptual level model onto Twinmotion, but you cannot take back the Twinmotion back to Revit. So initially, if you need to modify certain elements within Twinmotion, you have to make changes onto Revit interface, and then you can sync both of the changes by using an auto sync option. So very rightly opted, everyone. Now coming back to the part of other work process. So once we have received a conceptual level model from Forma or InfraWorks for the land development part to Revit, then we are going to opt for the entire detailed designing part, documentation part, collaboration part onto Autodesk Revit. And then for the clash detection or coordination part, we have to opt for the Autodesk Navisworks Manage. So initially initially we have to install a direct exporter, which is known as Navisworks Exporter, onto the Revit interface, and we can seamlessly integrate our NWC files from Revit to Navisworks directly. So Navis, coming back to the part of Navisworks, why it is used for what purposes does it use for? The first part of it is Like for the architects, basically we go for the clash detection part on Navisworks, whereas with the other timelines or simulations process, also where we can link the project management files for tracking down the activities can also be done on Navisworks. So the three file formats that generally deals with Navisworks is .nwc, which is cache files, where users are going to make the particular changes and they are going to sync it directly using the NWC exporter. Whereas NWF file is for managing down the clashes. So suppose a file is having 3000 clashes. So we need to check whether how many clashes have been resolved. So NWF is a particular format where we can see what are the changes or what has been resolved within a file. And NWD is a coordinated file which is being shared by various disciplines together to a BIM coordinator. So for these, coming back to the clash detection part, so under the clash detection part from Navisworks, we can get what elements are at the wrong positions or where they are clashing. We can see what properties does it caters, which domain does it belongs to. We can get the IDs from that particular platform. And from that particular platform, we can take those IDs directly onto Revit. We can impose it and can make resolutions accordingly. So depending on who will make the resolution depends on the discipline wise entirety decision to be made upon, or who is doing or who is committing a mistake. So that needs to be identified, and that particular thing needs to be resolved by a particular user or a person who is dealing with that particular discipline. So now we will move on to how these two of the solutions are integrated directly onto a live demo part. So once we have our entire detailed Revit model with various other disciplines together, we have to export it using the NWC exporter directly. So under the Manage tab, you can find those exporter. You can export these files. So this certain options need to be checked before exporting the files. Similarly, we will be going for the structural model as well. So same way to export it. Once they have been exported, the most important part is to that they should share the same coordinate system, right? And now within the Navisworks platform, I can integrate those two models directly, so they will superimpose on it with each other. So now we can go for the clash detection part where the resolutions are there within the models. So we'll just like to add the test. Suppose this has been architectural versus a structural test. We'll select both of the models and go for run test. Now you can see the file has 5042 clashes. So this is the particular file which I will save as .nwf format. So I have imported the NWC or appended the NWC files, and onto the right hand side you can see the properties of elements and property IDs. So now I'm saving this particular file as architecture or a Noida01 name and onto my desktop as NWF file. Once the user are using it at their end, they have to make resolutions onto Revit part and again export those files onto NWC format. And again, you are going to append it within this NWF file format. So you can check down the amount of results. So this is the ID which we have placed onto Revit part, and now we have to resolve this part accordingly. So this is how, by applying the section boxes, it will take you directly onto the element which has an clashes in between. And with the NWF file, you can see where the clashes are there and how many of them have been resolved. Over to you, Nishant.
Thank you, Anurag. So again, quiz time. To integrate Revit model with Navisworks, one would require option A, beta exporter, option B, Navisworks exporter, option C, Revit interoperability tool plugin, option D, none of the above. Can we have a poll, please, Anurag? They have already shared the result. Can you share the result, Anurag, please?
So it's like 50-50. Most of them has opted for the beta exporter as well, but nearby around 40 to 42% have opted for the Navisworks exporter. 15% of them has opted for the Revit interoperability, and 15% of them opted for the none of above option. So the correct answer to it is Navisworks exporter. So we have to install a Navisworks exporter according to the version of Revit we have. Once that's done, we can append them onto any of the versions that we have onto Navisworks. So beta exporter is basically for the Forma as an add-in plugin. So this is not used for transferring the Revit model to Navisworks, whereas Navisworks is the right option where Revit model is going to be transferred directly onto .nwc format as a cache file, and we can append those particular files onto Navisworks. Revit interoperability tool is tool within Revit, but for the Twinmotion purpose. And there is also a separate interoperability, which is particularly used for the copy setups and extensions where we can check up the health model issues. And the option was none of above. So the right answer to it is Navisworks exporter. Moving ahead to the other workflow process, where again from detailed designing, we are going for the visualization purpose. So Twinmotion is directly integrated within the Revit interface, but eventually if we need to take this Revit model onto any of the other formats like 3ds Max or Lumion, so we have to export the Revit file as .fbx or .obj format, then only we can take it. Similarly, if we have to make number of changes at the same time, that cannot be integrated, I would say. Yeah, so eventually you have to make a lot of efforts onto Revit again, changing those materials in case materials are missing or any of the things are missing within. So you have to change those elements onto Revit, and then you have to export it again as an FBX or OBJ. But with the help of our AEC package, where we offer Twinmotion with our AEC package, you can directly integrate Revit. So once you have made any of the changes within the Revit model, that is automatically going to sync within the Twinmotion. So you don't need to move the process to and forth again and again. So this is how they have been directly integrated. You can move this model particularly at a conceptual level if you are developing down the form and elements. And if you are moving with the option of detailed development, you can go and sync it right there itself to check what all errors are there within the coordinated drawings as well. So the capabilities that it caters basically is it gives you an option of auto sync, gives you the high quality walkthroughs around where you can present it to your customers for better visualization appealing, and can demonstrate them how the project will be going at a different phases of designs. So likewise, you can develop those models according to phase as well for the better prospects and clarity on the projects. Similarly, you can have high resolution renders, and you can go for the particular twin motion cloud presentation, which has a direct sync. So you don't need to store anything onto your systems. You can have directly onto the cloud integrated platform, as we have for the Revit as well. So we have cloud rendering options. So it works on the very same things with flex tokens and all. Yeah. So now we will move on to the live demo, that how these both of the tools have been integrated and what purpose they do serves. What is the purpose that it serves with these two, particularly interoperability between these two solutions. So we have this detailed model, and under the views tab, you can see we have a twin motion option where we can interlink this particular model directly, and it establishes a link between both of them. So now we have a model onto twin motion surface, and we can speed up the entire process. Onto the left hand side, we have material palettes. So we just need to drag and drop the entire materials onto surface. So it has been like material wise properties it is capable of dividing with the categories. Now you can see the ambience has been changed with the sun. You can make further alterations with the properties enhancements that you can visualize accordingly. So for the development part, I'm just taking down the ocean site. Suppose the site is at ocean, we are going to make it little interactive, I would say. So you can do multiple options, can do hit and trial. That depends on the sort of visualization you need within the software and tools. And you can change down the weather positions, and you even can set your own location. So weather properties can be taken accordingly, and you can analyze what sun effect has its onto the building. Moving back onto Revit. So I'm going to make certain changes with the help of a stair so that it can be incorporated within our twin motion model as well. So now you can see I have modified my Revit model with certain further additions of staircase. And similarly, with this way, you can walk through around the buildings. You can develop those cameras accordingly, and you can give a quick look at how walkthroughs will be. So this is how we can go for the walkthroughs. We can develop those cameras angle and can take the render sections accordingly. Similarly, I'm copying down this element again onto front end side to see the enhansive results. So now you can see it has been integrated onto my Revit model as well. So now you can see by the auto sync option, we have minimized the level of work we have to do by taking those options back onto the form of .fpx or obj back, making changes. And now I have set it in camera, and I will be going for the render option. Now within, so you can get 2K and 4K resolution images within 1 to 2 seconds of time. So this is how the entire thing works with these two capabilities. Coming back to the workflow process where we were dealing with the integration sort of thing. So, we have brought the model from its form development or a conceptual level, from the land development to detailed designing in Revit. Then for the particular from detailed designing portion or the conceptual level portion, we are moving it for the visualization purpose onto Twinmotion. Similarly, with detailed designing with various disciplines that are involved within our project, we are taking them onto the Navisworks managed platform for the coordination purposes. And overall, in order to manage all these three or four domains together within a network, we are going and opting for the cloud solutions. So which acts as a common data environment source for us, where we can generate the right for information capabilities, where we can create down the issues, where we can create down the markups, where we can store a single source of file. So eventually, if you store those files with the same name, it will opt with the different versions, and you can compare between those versions as well. So if I have a file of version v1 and I have uploaded the same file back again with the same name, it will get a different version. So we can initially see what are the changes, what dates, who has uploaded that file, who has made the changes. So you can track each and every activity of a person who is relevant or is being initiated with a project itself. So there is a less chance of blaming on each other rather than working on an integrated format. So eventually, you know who has done the issues, who has created the issues, who is going to sort out those issues, particularly whether it is prevalent onto the site or whether it is prevalent onto your model network. Similarly, the decision-wise making can also be resolved. For example, we have a review system within common data environment. So if I have to share, I have worked on a file and I have to share it with my higher authorities for the approval. So there are a number of ways for the approvals as well. So we can go for those particular process as well. Now, I would just like to take you directly onto ACC platform. So So that's the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. So now on to the top, you can see I have a home page. I have projects in which I have an access to. So this entire is a cloud-based platform, and I would be moving with this particular project. So it depends on what level of access you have been employed it onto the project. So initially I am a project administrator or a project member. So I don't have an option to create a project. So similarly, there are three options with it, like admin level of access, then project admin, then we have a project member. So the project member has its least access to the files and folders that you have. Project administrator will have a complete vision to what is going within a project. He will have access to all those things, folders and structures. Whereas an account admin is the person, like an IT department person from your organization who is managing those licenses. He will have an option of account admin. So he can create down those projects and can resemble members onto the project according to their functionalities. So now here on, we have the files option. So you can see we have created these file options within various phases of design, what we are going to work upon, like concept based, design based, tender based. So just by clicking on to these three dots and adding a subfolder, you can add those particular things. Now, even into the particular folders, you can have the option for managing down the particular permission, which has been allotted to a particular members within a project. So you can see all of them have an option to manage it within. But similarly, you can change these while adding down you can set up the permission levels, like you can give a person an access that he can only view a file, similarly view and download a file. So depending on the need of a user onto a particular folder, you can assign him with multiple level of access to the folders. Now this was all with respect to what files are, right? Similarly, I told you about the reviews section where we can develop or generate a workflow based process where we can create down the reviews accordingly, and who is going to give a permission whether this file has been approved at the higher end or not. So those things can be done. Eventually, if you're working on site and you are sharing down your number of packages of sheets, you can go with the option of create transmittals. So you can attach those particular sets of sheets and folders or the files to the subcontractors or contractors. So eventually with the construction or with particularly construction project, this is one of the major issues that an industry is facing, that they're not able to manage and each one of them plays a blame game on each other. So this actually is a good platform to track upon, and you can see how many transmittals you have shared to a particular vendor and he has seen them or not. So if you know you have shared the package and he says he doesn't have it, so you can track those things directly and you can fix it accordingly. Similarly, if there is any of the issues within a model, you can go for the issues and you can sort it out accordingly. So if I just move on to the files option and any of my design folders, so you can also have subfolders to it. For example, work in progress folder, and then I have different disciplines altogether. Under the different disciplines also, we have number of things to look for. So I'm just looking for any of the files that I can show you directly. So now you can see I have a model within a cloud network and where I have this architectural model particularly. So if there is certain issue within, suppose this overhang I feel is quite large, right? So I can mark it as an issue. So suppose this becomes a design issue, I can choose for an option. I can click on to the design part or the particular area where that issue is associated. I can give it a title. I can give it as a status, whether this is an open status or not. Now I can go for the description. Suppose overhang width or depth, whatsoever is the description to it, you can apply that. And whom I am going to assign. So the number of members which are involved within a project, depending on even disciplines and access to the folders, you can assign those particular issues to a particular person as well. So I have assigned it to Darshan, and I can keep as a watcher to multiple persons, those who are associated with it. You can fill the location, start and due date. You can prefix it, how many number of days you are going to allot to a person. So just a 1 day to resolve this issue at his end, and you can tag a person directly at a rate Darshan, please resolve it. Uh, Solve it as described. So now you know who is the person who is looking after this particular issue, and I can submit or create that issue. Once this has been done, I can move back onto my files domain and the issues. And over here, you can see the latest issue that has been created with respect to the Darshan. And this is the file in which issue is. So he can open this file directly at his end and can see where the issue is, going on to Revit back, resolving the issue, and he will upload that file again back onto this particular platform. So now you can see we have version comparison as well. So eventually, if I select any of the files, so here you can see we have version V1, V2, V3, and V4. So this is V4. Now, if I need to compare between those two versions as well, what are the changes? I can compare them accordingly. What's the versions I have to compare with? I can just go for these comparison options, and it will show you what are the elements that are within model, what have been deleted, and so on. So this is how a single source of truth can be maintained with a common data network environment. So this is from my end, and we will begin this with Q&A session now. So if anyone is having any questions, feel free to ask by using your mic, or we can take it from the chat box. You can drop your questions onto your chat box as well.
If you have any questions, you can raise your hand as well. We can allow to talk. Also, you can put your question in chat box. There is a one question in the chat box, Anurag. How we can use AI?
So particularly with respect to the AI tools, yet they haven't been integrated directly. But like you have this formats where we have like Dynamo in case. So likewise with the automations also, these tools are going on onto the development part of it. So this reduces the task, but on a right way, they haven't been integrated directly, because we don't have any such thing right now. Like we can have an optimized solution, but we cannot have an automatic solution to it. That means we have to give certain inputs to get an output accordingly. So as such, it's going to come because the future is within AI right now. So that's going to be seamlessly integrated. But as of now, there is no direct integration with AI. We are onto the automation part that is also needed to be checked with the uh, inputs to the output results. So once you give the inputs, then it gives you the number of options and you can filter them according to your particular parameters, which are on priority basis. I hope that answers to your question.
Thank you, Anurag. There is one more question, Anurag. What is the primary purpose of using an integrated workflow in the AEC industry?
So I would say the purpose of having an integrated solution is, as you all know, that we have multiple solutions, but they are used for the specific purposes out there. So there is like you don't have an direct integration between InfraWorks or Civil 3D with Revit, right? So Revit is used particularly for the vertical designing aspects, whereas Civil 3D and InfraWorks are more onto the land development and horizontal development sort of infra works. So you can bring those onto a particular format, but you cannot work onto Revit by taking those particular details, because they have lot of sections, ups and downs, slopes. So those things are Revit is incapable of, I would say, or don't have that much of capabilities, I would say rather. So that's how, with the conceptual level of design, where we are developing the form out, where the particular tool is used for a particular purpose, we are enhancing that particular and matching properties of that particular forms area developments. Then we are bringing it to a different platform where we are using the Revit as a detailed out platform, and then we are taking it for the further visualization. So it's all an integrated platform. If I'm going for any other solution like Lumion or something, so those don't has a direct capabilities with Autodesk somehow. With certain softwares, like I have an interconnectivity between Twinmotion and Revit, but I don't have it with Lumion. So once, so syncing is not so direct over there. So you have to work in and fro process again. So that's how the particular purpose of the software helps you to integrate with particular capabilities and take a desired output out of it.
Thank you. Next question is how to integrate Power BI into ACC.
So I haven't actually integrated with the ACC model. So there is an integration of Power BI by using an add-ins like interoperability tools within Revit. Uh, but I haven't explored this particularly, that how we can integrate the Power BI with Construction Cloud platform so far. So we'll get back to you, and you can reach out to us on the preferred email IDs.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much, Anurag. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar. I would like to ask few topics from your end so that we can arrange one more webinar regarding this topic. If you have any challenges, you already know our team, and you already have my number, my email ID, and your salesperson email ID as well. Please feel free to contact us anytime. I hope this webinar would have been insightful to all of you guys. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Thank you, all of you.